Okay, great. Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. It is February 9th. Actually, it's my mom's birthday today. I saw that. I was like, oh, I better give her a call at some point this morning, very quickly. Okay. Thank you for joining us for today's Douglas County Homeless Initiative. We're approaching Valentine's Day, and we've got a lot of great news to share today. We are going to be having a press conference at about 10:30 today, and for those here, I invite all of you from our municipalities, law enforcement, our navigation team, our staff, our community foundation, our public health department, and certainly the wonderful Jamie Rye from the Metro Denver Homeless Initiative to participate in that as we share some really positive news about what the HEART team has done since they began. Today we're going to talk a little bit about our signs, the municipality and committee update. We'll talk additionally about the Handouts Don't Help campaign and the HEART awareness. After that, we'll have a little bit around the HEART update from Tiffany Marcito, then Veterans Services with Heather Powers and Lauren Lipinski. We will open it up for public comment around 10. Thank you, everyone from the public, for joining us today. We always appreciate you being here. We'll have some closing comments and then a preliminary point-in-time count press conference at 10:30. So again, thank you, everybody, for joining us, and I'll turn it over to Jen Eby.
Okay, good morning, everyone. So I'm going to start us off with the sign and municipality update, so we wanted to give you an idea of what the signs are looking like out there. So some visuals this morning. We have two different signs that we've been working on. So we have the Handouts Don't Help sign. This is one that is located at county line in Quebec, so we have those throughout the county. And then we have the CDOT No Trespass sign that you see on the right there. Those are also located throughout the county. And the one that you see here is at C470 in Quebec. So wanted to first give you a quick update on what we're working on through the county for additional sign installation. We have worked with the Highlands Ranch Metro District to talk to them about installing signs at different locations. And their staff is in the process of identifying where those locations will be. So we're expecting once they get through that process, kind of mid-February, that we'll be able to do some more sign installations there. We're also working as a county staff to identify what locations we may have that are adjacent to RTD stops, light rail, bus stops, that sort of thing, because we've been told that if it is property that's county or we can otherwise work with the owner of that property that's adjacent to an RTD stop, we can put a sign there, just not on the RTD property. So we'll be working on that. In addition to that, we're going to continue to pursue doing a business toolkit and working through our economic development chambers, or our economic development councils and our chambers, to work on getting the word out about to the businesses that in addition to doing like a no trespass letter, they can also have a sign installed on their property. And so that we hope that that will help kind of get the word going. I wanted to give an opportunity for the municipalities to give an update. I will say we have heard from Parker that they do not have plans to install signs at this point. If we can identify kind of inroads with businesses, they'd be more than willing to look at that. And wanted to give Mayor Gray an opportunity to give an update from Castle Rock.
Thanks, Jennifer. You know, so far in Castle Rock, the only intersection we have completed is over on Wolfensberger, exit and entrance. The other intersections for the I-25 we don't have done yet. We're working with Douglas County on like Lowe's and Home Depot, some of the bigger retailers for getting permission for signs. That hasn't been successful yet, but we're making inroads, I think, a little bit. You know, one of the things we have there is making sure that they want the signs and where they want the signs on their property, And then fourth or third is the trailheads. We're going to do trailheads, but probably in the spring or early summer when the ground finally thaws up. So thanks.
And then Lone Tree, if
Good morning. Marissa Harmon, Lone Tree City Council. Thank you so much. I'm so happy to see the sign that we are partnering with CDOT, and they have those no trespassing signs. There's been some good success off the highway where we do see panhandlers. I was also excited to see that my husband even noticed on the Bluffs, both entrances to the Bluffs parking lot that are adjacent to Lone Tree have the signs. Currently, I believe Steve Fletcher, we're in the process of identifying any locations if the signs were to be placed there. So I will keep you posted when I know more. Thank you so much.
thank you.
Well, I would really like to thank our elected leadership from our municipalities. It's always an honor when you join us here at the county, and we're very thankful for your leadership. You know, I think part of the signage campaign really focuses on our first C, leading with compassion. We want to ensure that people are giving, but giving to a trusted resource, which is that Douglas County Community Foundation.
I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
go ahead.
We do have the map too.
Oh, good.
Is that okay if I go through
It
that?
is. I just wanted to mention to our municipalities one quick aside. You know, imitation is the highest form of flattery, and we know that Aurora has actually developed some signs as a municipality, very, I'd say somewhat similar to ours, and they are everywhere throughout their city. So I think it is a really interesting opportunity for us as cities and a county to deploy more.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we feel like visuals always help, so we thought it would be a good idea to demonstrate actually visually where the signs are. We, just to kind of give you an idea of what you're looking at here, we do have 27 total signs. The red dots are where the handouts don't help signs are located currently. Several of them are in our regional parks, as you mentioned. And at trailheads, we do have some at County Line in Quebec. And then we have the blue dots, which are indicating where the no trespass signs have been placed through CDOT. So Luke, if you could switch to the interactive sign or the interactive map. We'll show you where, kind of just zoom into some of these areas a little bit. So some of them have multiple signs at different parks. A lot of times in parking lots at trailheads, that sort of thing. Our goal here is for them to be visual and seen by the public. And then if you want to go to the other one to the west, we have another park out there that has a couple more signs on the west side of the county. And then, I know I'm not speaking into my mic like I'm supposed to. If you want to go over down to Castle Rock, Luke, next. We do have several signs that are at Fairgrounds Park, and then the two that Mayor Gray spoke about at the Wolfensberger exit. And then we have some additional ones that are on the east side of the county. And then as we've talked about, you've heard us talk about, we do have some additional planned signs that we have talked through with our committee. So we're going to click on that layer to show you where the additional planned signs are at this point. So the green dot, the green diamonds that are on there show the other proposed locations for signs that the committee identified. And then in addition to that, the orangish yellow diamonds, those are indicative of where we have asked CDOT to place additional no trespass signs. And that really provides just an overview of where we're at with that process. So.
Well, Jen, thank you for that. And I might invite our newly elected Sheriff Darren Weekly to speak a little bit to this issue. But from an expert-informed public policy standpoint, you know, in Douglas County, we're taking the approach of, yes, giving, but unfortunately, We don't want to encourage people to hand $100 bills out of their vehicles at intersections because we know that will likely only incentivize people to come back to those intersections. Not only does that replicate the issue in and around Douglas County, but it's unsafe. And so I'll invite the sheriff to speak maybe to that issue a bit.
Yeah, I would definitely concur with that. I mean, it creates a bunch of different issues, potentially for the individual who's panhandling. If they're walking out into traffic, like you and I saw a couple weeks ago, they were just on the side of the road. It creates a danger. And one of the things about Douglas County is we're not going to wait for a tragedy to happen. We're going to be proactive in our approach to public safety. And I just think it's critical that if people see these types of activities, whether it be a panhandler or somebody walking in traffic, walking on an island in the median, or making contact with people, that presents a dangerous situation for our citizens. And I encourage people to call law enforcement if they see that type of activity.
Thank you, Sheriff. So the Sheriff and I were at Lincoln and I-25, Marissa, right in your district. 9 News did a brief interview, and during that time, we saw an able-bodied male with an empty baby carriage right there at the intersection, and he was about a foot from oncoming traffic in that turn lane. And when you watch it, it's like 40, 55 miles an hour right towards him, and people don't know if there's a baby in that baby. What's happening there? It's just not a safe situation for that person or anybody trying to stop and render assistance. So, Sheriff, thank you for that. So with that, unless there are any other comments or questions around the sign campaign, any other questions from anybody? Okay. We're going to move on to the heart update from Tiffany. And I know Tiffany did a wonderful job right here in Mayor Gray's town, having a conversation with the community around what she does. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Yeah.
So I have a report for January of 2023. Hart received a total of 92 referrals. That's the lowest number that we have seen since Hart started their referral process. 79% of those were from law enforcement. We had 11 from community partners, 1 citizen call, and 7 public referrals. Hart was able to contact 36 of those individuals. 38 were information only. Law enforcement had either notified us that they took the individual into custody, or they were not wanting Hart services at that time. 12 were unable to locate, 4 refused follow-up after we initially contacted them. We had 1 unoccupied camp, and 1 was currently awaiting contact by Hart, which has since been resolved. Of those 92 referrals that we had, 80 were unduplicated individuals. So we contacted 80 individuals between law enforcement and Hart in January. Hart provided case management services to 10 clients. 1 was referred to benefit assistance. 5 were referred to nonprofit community partners. 1 was assisted with housing search. 1 was referred to employment assistance, and 4 clients were given hotel vouchers from our faith-based or nonprofit community partners. Hart also completed their point-in-time count on January 30th to count those who were unsheltered and sheltered on that night. I do have a success story from January that I wanted to share with you all. I received a call from one of our local nonprofits who notified me that there was an individual, a woman who had been living in her van in Parker in the parking lot, and she had 5 children with her. I immediately went over to the parking lot, interviewed the individual, assessed her, tried to gain what kind of resources she needed, and it turns out she was fleeing a domestic violence situation from another state. So I reached out to our local domestic violence resources, and she immediately was able to get some shelter through our community partner. Since my interaction, she has reached out to her community in the city in which she wanted to reside, and she now has a rental home for her and her family, and she was given security deposit money and first month's rent. So that was a success story in a very short time. That's all I have from Hart.
Tiffany, thank you so much. Any questions from the committee around the Hart update? Yes, Marissa. Councilperson
Marissa
Harmon. I should
Harmon.
refer you to you that way. I
It's
apologize.
okay. Thank you so much. So Mayor Malay and I last night had a tour of Eagle Academy, which was mind-blowing because these kids, there's 135 students at the school. We were shocked to hear that 20% of their student population is either housing insecure. 3 are currently living out of their car. And all sorts of support is needed, from food to coats to gas cards. My question is, how can we pair with the schools if we find out that students are homeless? And I am sure getting a HEART member in there, and as I spoke with Chief about it this morning, this circle is probably a closed circle. So how can we make sure that whoever we're sitting with, or the HEART team is sitting with, is asking to make sure if they know anybody also in the school that could benefit from the services? These kids at Eagle Academy are making a choice to go to school and are working in the morning and working after school. And I just want to make sure that we can send out whatever support. So if Tiffany has any ideas, or Commissioner Layden, on how we can just continue to make sure that we're closing that loop there.
Thank you for that, and our best to Mayor Malay. We do have a seat on this board for the Board of Education, and I don't know if there's somebody here from the Board of Education.
Commissioner, yes. So Megan Tran, who's the McKinney-Vento, what's her title, Megan? She's a McKinney-Vento coordinator who works for the school district to ensure that students who are in our schools who are experiencing homelessness are connected to resources. And so the school district does have a program in place, and Megan works with the HEART, works with our other community partners. Aaron and I were like, Aaron was the one that said, I couldn't see Megan. She was the one that said Megan was here in the room. So there is deep relationship and coordination with McKinney-Vento. And of course, in this particular case, always call the HEART and they can connect as well. But I wanted to reference the McKinney-Vento program from the school district, and Megan is here today. So
thank you for that. Megan, did you want to say something?
I'm so glad that you brought that up. Currently, we have about 20 unaccompanied minors in Douglas County, and some are sleeping in their cars. Most are fortunately doubled up with other just kind people who take them in, but it is a huge need. Just yesterday, I had a family with Safe Families offer to take in some of our unaccompanied minors, but if you're looking for a way to help, absolutely, call me. I'm Megan Tran. I can give you my contact information. We can hook them up with Safe Families, Department of Human Services, because almost all of our unaccompanied minors, from my experience, have some type of past interactions with Department of Human Services. And we really want to surround those students with love and compassion and a stable home. A couple years ago at Eagle, we had a student sleeping in by clothes dryers. Like, how horrible was that? And we finally were able to get him a bed at Urban Peak in Denver, but that really wasn't ideal either. Going to Eagle Academy, you're not done until 8:30, the transportation. So I'm so glad you brought up that need. It is massive, and I'm so happy to have a conversation with you outside of this so we can come up with more plans.
Great, Megan, thank you so much. Anything else on this topic on HEART? Okay, well, I made a horrible mistake, and my eyes are getting older and older with each year. I'll be 47 in a couple of days, and they're just going away. So I missed the second one, which is the Handouts Don't Help campaign and HEART awareness by Miss Wendy Holmes. So thank you, Wendy.
Good morning. This HEART update, Handouts Don't Help and HEART awareness update, I really do think the best way to do this is a little bit of audience participation. I don't want to talk about it. I want to show it. How's that? So everybody has their smartphone in front of them, and you can do this too, everyone. Please go to douglas.co.us and let me know what the first thing is that you see on that screen. I'll do it too. Come on, Mayor.
Points for participation, Mayor Gray.
What do you see? What do you see? This is the HEART logo. This is, and the reason this is significant is of all the means we have to get information out via the county, which we can touch more than 200,000 people when we do our thing. The website is the most cited location where people get their information about Douglas County. So very few people are going to go to douglas.co.us, but when they do, this is what they will see. And if you look in the companion copy, you will see that there are 3 links in there. If you click on the one that says click here for more information, you are going to get the landing page for the HEART team. And you can also experience that if you just type in HEART Douglas County, it will take you right to this page. It is not hard to find. Everything is there. And Google favors our site because it's so responsive on all browsers and all devices. So that's the first thing I wanted to show you. The second thing, those at the table, you have this, and there are extra copies out there. I wanted to share with you, can you go to the next slide, Mr. Luke, please? Thank you. What you're looking at right now is one of 2 digital ads that are running on the web pages of all 7 Douglas County community media newspapers. Lone Tree, Parker, Highlands Ranch, Castle Pines, Douglas County, I'm missing one. But in front of you, you'll see, no, that's the digital ad. So there are 2 vertical ads running on the web pages of all those newspapers. In the last 18 days, so this is just since the start of this year, since January 23rd, that ad has had almost 24,000 impressions, 208 click-throughs, and that is consistent with all of our other digital ads. But I wanted you to know that we're trying to catch people where they already are. They're in the digital space in Douglas County. So that's the other thing we're doing. Then I think, Luke, if you could go to the next slide, please. This is the print ad that Douglas County runs in all 6 of those newspapers. The target audience for the newspapers is an older adult, male and female. It's people my age and older. But I wanted you to see that we're trying to catch all demographics in the county by doing this. So this is one of the print ads. We're going to run that block twice a month. And then finally, in front of you is the social media campaign statistics, this information here. The social media work that we're doing on the handouts don't help. And there's 2 messages there. It's, of course, it is about your generosity, redirect your generosity, but it also brings attention to the heart. And these social media posts in Nextdoor, in Facebook and Twitter are tracking and trending larger than most of the posts that we do. A lot of good comments and some, on both sides, but we're letting it go and they're talking about it. The conversation is really healthy in those spaces. And so I think that's really it. Just wanted to be sure you understood what we were doing, and every opportunity we get to tell the story of the success of HEART, we are going to be doing that. And you'll see a little bit more about that today. Thank you, sir. I think that's all I have.
Thank you, Ms. Wendy Holmes. We often say in Douglas County, we don't wait to do great. And I know in our last meeting, Councilwoman Harmon had the question around, many citizens reaching out and asking, what is this campaign? What is this about? I think part of that presentation was to help address and answer that question for our community. But any other questions for Wendy? Any other issues or ways in which we can better inform the community about this campaign? Anybody? I want to recognize Councilwoman Laura Hefta from Parker as well. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, I have a blog on my own personal website. Actually, it's my campaign website, actually. It's just laurahefta.com. And on that blog, I discuss a variety of issues in the community. And one of them is homelessness and helping folks. And I do actually have a blog post with the HEART campaign on it. Great. And so I think one of the ways that we can all help, if we do have social media or websites, is to post a blog about how we do help the homeless. And I think mine is about helping a helping hand or a hand up. It's not specifically a homeless website, and also have a lot of other matters on there, including how to help children as well. So we can all try to do that.
Well, Councilwoman Hefta, thank you so much, and thank you to the town of Parker. Just a quick note, none of this would be possible without our municipal partners, our cities and towns. It was actually, I have to give credit to the town of Castle Rock. It was your graphics department and communications that helped really design that entire graphic and help roll that out, so thank you. And I know for City of Lone Tree, a lot of the language came from Mayor Millay and your council, so we really worked on that with you all, and hopefully it's a great team effort. So, well, thank you, Wendy. So with that, we'll jump down to Veteran Services, Heather Powers and Lauren Lipinski.
Thank you for having us here today. My name's Lauren Lipinski. Can y'all hear me good? I am the coordinated entry specialist for our local VA here. So my role primarily is to act as a liaison between all the VA homeless programs and all of the homeless community providers within our continuum of care. And Heather Powers is our HUD-VASH program coordinator. So for the VA, she oversees all of our entire HUD-VASH program for the Eastern Colorado healthcare system. So today we wanted to share with you a little bit about what we've been doing here with Douglas County homeless providers. So the VA and Douglas County and our partners with MDHI have been talking about how are we going to end veteran homelessness specifically in Douglas County. We've been talking for about, I would say, the past year now. And so we're just going to kind of share what we've been doing this past year with you all. Next slide, please. So how are we going to get to ending veteran homelessness? So we know that we'll never end homelessness completely, right? But we are under the Built for Zero umbrella. So that's a national change effort to end homelessness, not for just veterans, but for chronic and for all. And that's a national and international change effort. And so the VA has been collaborating with MDHI for over 10 years now, and they have been a huge partner in us achieving what we've achieved so far in improving our coordinated entry system locally. This past year, the National VA Office set a goal to house at least 38,000 veterans by the end of the calendar year, so January of 2022 to January of 2023. We exceeded that goal as a nation, and locally we exceeded it. I think we were supposed to house about 686, and we actually have 741. And got so much recognition locally that the Secretary of the VA, Secretary McDonough, actually came to Denver last week. Last week. And he did a coin ceremony, which getting a coin from the VA secretary is a pretty prestigious honor. It means you're just doing really great work. Also honored Dr. Jamie Reif with a coin as well, because MDHI has been such a integral part of us reaching the goals that we've reached. So really happy to be partners with MDHI and all of you here. So basically what we've done is we have been talking with Douglas County about our efforts to end veteran homelessness and how we are working with Built for Zero, and how we have created this veteran by name list, which lives in the Homeless Management Information System, or HMIS. And so what we're trying to do is identify specific veterans in Douglas County and getting them on the by name list so we can move them into housing placements. Next slide, please. So identifying our homeless veterans is key into getting them into housing, right? We need to know who they are, where they are, and what they're eligible for, so we can hopefully hook them up with a housing resource to get them housed and off the streets. And so what we've been doing in the last year is working with a lot of your outreach folks, with RAND specifically, and identifying veterans that we know of that are literally homeless in Douglas County. And so that has been happening probably since this summer. And we've identified, I believe it's at least 5 that we know of that have verified VA eligibility for housing. And so we're trying to talk about what are some barriers to getting those folks housed. Again, the HMIS system, I can't say how much of a game changer this has been for our coordinated entry system. I know we've had iterations of HMIS in the past that weren't so great, but MDHI has purchased this new system through BitFocus that is so sophisticated, and it's been able to give us real-time data where we know where veterans are the night before, where they slept, and we can send our outreach folks to that shelter or day shelter the next morning in hopes to engage with that veteran, start a rapport, let them know what they're eligible for. Next slide. Another thing about our by name list is we have the capability to tag where a veteran is experiencing homelessness. So we can tag veterans who are homeless in Douglas County, Jefferson County, Boulder, et cetera, within the COC. And so another good tool that we use with our coordinated entry system is case conferencing. And case conferencing is another game changer in terms of talking about that specific veteran. John Smith, who is homeless in Douglas County and sleeps under this bridge. He's eligible for VA health care, we just found out, because we got his social security number and date of birth off of HMIS, and we were able to give that to our eligibility specialist, and they said, yes, this person is actually eligible. And so we get our outreach workers to go meet with that veteran where they're at in the community, because we don't expect veterans to come to us, especially out in Douglas where a VA office is pretty far away. So we can send our staff to come meet with those veterans. We can work with your outreach workers to kind of bridge that gap. And then just kind of get them document ready to get that HUD-VASH voucher and find a unit of housing in Douglas County that they can rent. So we talk about things that are barriers for veterans. Maybe they're missing a birth certificate or they don't have a valid ID. Maybe they don't have a phone and we can't get in touch with them. And so trying to put the pieces that that veteran needs in order to make them successful in becoming housed is really key. And so we've been having a monthly case conference meeting with Douglas County providers. We just started that. I think we've had at least 2 or 3 meetings now. Next slide, please. And because we've been meeting so much, you could see here, this is your Douglas County by name list data. So you could see January 22, we had 1 identified veteran in Douglas County. And you can see in June is when we probably started talking with Douglas County a lot more collaboration was happening. And then July, August, we're identifying more veterans in Douglas County. And that's around the time that Douglas County providers were starting to input into HMIS this veteran with the Douglas County outreach team. So then I would get pinged and alerted, and then I would add them to the by name list after we verify that, yes, they're eligible for VA housing resources. And so you can see we're in January 23 now. We've actually, we were up to 5 and now we're down to 4. Next slide, please. Because during our case conferencing, we've actually been able to house 1 veteran already from our efforts of collaborating and using HMIS and case conferencing. And this 1 veteran who was literally homeless in Douglas County is now housed through one of our SSVF partners, which is Supportive Services for Veteran Families, essentially a rapid rehousing partner. And so basically what we're saying is this is working. The way we're setting up our collaboration and our coordinated entry system, and we're all using one database to kind of collaborate between all the different municipalities about that 1 veteran. So we're hoping to see more of that in the next coming months. And I'm going to give you Heather Powers now, who's going to give you a little overview of our VA resources.
Thank you for having us. Next slide, please. And again, my name is Heather Powers, and I am the coordinator of the HUD-VASH program at the Denver VA Medical Center. I have worked in our homeless programs for now it will be almost 14 years in March, and actually all of that time has been in our HUD-VASH program. I just want to say really quickly, a lot of people refer to our homeless programs as HUD-VASH. HUD-VASH is actually a portion of our homeless programs, not the entirety of our homeless programs. So if you hear HUD-VASH as like a general way to refer to homeless programs, it's actually a separate and different part in a section of our homeless programs in all of the homeless programs that we offer. I will talk really quickly about HUD-VASH. So HUD-VASH is Housing and Urban Development VA supported housing services. What HUD-VASH is a program really targeted toward veterans who have been chronically homeless or have a myriad of, I usually say, functional impairment or mental health substance use, who really need the support of both a housing subsidy and intensive case management. So what in a community-based setting, what it looks like mostly is permanent supported housing, or like what would be commonly known as maybe like a shelter plus care type of program. So HUD-VASH is really intended to be for folks who need long-term support within our system of care. Next slide, please. So also within our system of care, we have our grant and per diem programs. Those are really targeted for folks who need maybe more light touch services, case management services, temporary housing services, to be able to get stabilized and then move into housing that they can support independently. These are greater known as maybe a transitional housing or shelter-based type program, but in our system, they are not all like that. We have different grant and per diem options based really we want to look at the veteran and what they're presenting with as their primary concerns, and then we assist them in selecting a grant and per diem site that really fits their needs better. So we might have a veteran who presents with substance abuse and mental health, but doesn't really need the intensive support that HUD-VASH offers. So they would go into a transitional housing program that identifies and works with their needs, but then also helps them move into housing that they can support independently, that they don't need that ongoing support. The VA partners with sites in the communities to offer these transitional housing options, and all of that is done through partnership and collaboration with those sites. And then, as Lauren mentioned, we have supported services for veteran families. Supported services for veteran families is actually a grant that the VA funds to community organizations, and the community organizations operate and utilize that funding. So supported services for veteran families, if we're thinking about levels of care, is actually in a lot of ways maybe the lowest level of care a veteran could enter into. So let's say they come through the by name list and they're being screened for services. Somebody who really doesn't need a medium level of help and support would actually be referred to our supportive services for veteran families programs first, because those are the programs that are going to offer rapid rehousing, perhaps shallow assistance. So maybe they offer a few months or several months of rental assistance to help somebody who's maybe had unemployment or a personal crisis, something that has created housing instability or a break in housing for them. Supported services for veteran families can be that like light touch to help a person move into services and move out really quickly. So the intention of SSVF is really around helping somebody move into stability as quickly as possible and not as intensive case management services. Next slide. That actually might be the end of our slides. Yes. So I did want to talk a little bit about screening for our programs and how somebody gets into homeless programs. I'd like to say that we have a no wrong door philosophy. Like Lauren was saying, if someone is identified, say they're identified by outreach, they're identified through case conferencing, we love for people to come into our programs. We love for them to come to Rocky Mountain Regional Medical Center or our CRRC, but they don't have to. We can work with our outreach. We can work with our housing teams. We can work with other outreach and community partners to meet veterans where they are to screen them for services. So we don't have to have them come to services to be served. So I just want to really reiterate that piece. There is no wrong door to receiving services in our programs. This does have our community resource and referral information and hours. Our community resource and referral center is located in Denver proper. The purpose of that, so the CRRC is an outpatient clinic, if you will, for veterans who are homeless specifically. So it is, all of our services are targeted for veterans to come in and receive immediate services that day. We offer showers, laundry, limited storage. Somebody can be screened that day by a social worker and our outreach staff, and they can receive services immediately through our CRRC. A person does not have to come to the CRRC to be screened for services. They can call our main number, and then a social worker can call back to be able to screen for services. So if a veteran is identified here in Douglas County and it's really far, we can do the screening in another way to be able to access services. We also have a walk-in clinic at Rocky Mountain Regional Medical Center, and that is located in Building A on the first floor, and it also has hours every day except for Wednesdays. I believe they don't have walk-in clinic on Wednesdays, but that doesn't mean nobody's there. A veteran can come in and be screened or receive services, and then an appointment to come back and receive services. So we, again, really try to make ourselves as accessible as possible to be able to meet the needs of the folks who are trying to serve and get housed. And then I just want to say, Missy Mish is our CRRC program coordinator, and she would be happy to take questions or talk to anyone at any point regarding the myriad of services that we offer, our work in the community, and our collaborations. And I think that is all. So thank you all so much.
Well, Heather and Lauren, thank you so much for being here with us today. That was really great information. Let me just ask if there, and I know, I think Dan Mays from our Veterans Service Office is here. Hi, Dan. Dan, did you want to say anything? I'm sorry, Chris Mays, not Dan Mays.
Well, good morning. Really, the only thing I want to add is when we do get a call regarding a veteran, we have used the referral office before, but if it depends on mental health or homelessness or even medical assistance, we try to provide as much navigation to the appropriate resource that we send them to. So we work well with everyone locally as well as throughout the VA system.
Chris, thank you for that. And I really want to applaud the Metro Denver Homeless Initiative as well for focusing on veterans. I know that's been a big part of the push and part of our commitment to Built for Zero. Dr. Wright, did you have? Yeah. You just got to turn it on.
Thanks. I do want to say that I'm proud to say Douglas County was our most improved community in 2022. Great. Good job. One of the things that we do to make sure we know veterans by name is we have a scorecard, and we have 9 subregions in the Metro Denver region. And Douglas County is one of them. Last year, there are 29 metrics on that scorecard. You all went from 12 to 22. The most improved in our entire region. So, and that is really thanks to the collaboration of this body, the Heart team, Rand and his team, and just the VA and all of us coming together and saying, how can we make sure that we know our veterans, what their needs are, and move them to housing? So I just want to say well done to Douglas County, and we appreciate your coordination and collaboration with these efforts.
It deserves a round of applause. That's great. Thank you, Dr. Reif.
I did have a quick question. Are you in communication with our detention center for eligible inmates who may be eligible for your services through our reintegration program?
So we do have a veteran justice outreach program. I am not the expert in that program, and so I actually cannot say specifically if they service Douglas County. I know that they serve the greater part of the metropolitan area, and we serve Colorado Springs. I would say that if somebody came our way through the detention program, we would absolutely do our best to serve a person. But I will say, I think there are some expansion efforts in progress, but I don't feel expertise enough to feel like I can speak to Douglas County specifically.
I'll just ensure that you're connected.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. Any other questions? All right. Well, I would be remiss if I didn't also recognize and acknowledge our reintegration team. So we have Nicole Beckett here and Deputy Sanchez as well. Just wanted to say hi to you all. We've been really praising our Heart team, but a big part of what Douglas County is doing is helping with reintegration from our Justice Center. I know one big issue that we heard early on from Castle Rock and our good mayor was what happens when somebody is justice involved. They leave the Justice Center and have no transportation or places to go. And I think part of the goal was to reclaim our public spaces and ensure that those needing transportation and reintegration would get that. Nicole, did you want to share anything? I don't mean to put you on the spot.
Much. Nicole Beckett with the Reintegration and the Detention Center. It's been fabulous connecting with the Heart team and really improving that connection of when maybe they come upon somebody and connecting to us when somebody becomes incarcerated, and then vice versa. So Deputy Sanchez is able to take them to local shelters in Denver Metro, or we haven't gone to the VA just yet since we've had Deputy Sanchez, but we have worked with the VA prior years. So thank you very much.
Nicole, thank you. Recently I had a chance to tour the facility, and Nicole was great about providing additional information if anybody ever wants to go down and see what they do from a reintegration standpoint. Well, we're actually running a little bit early today, and we have so many amazing partners here with us. I wonder if we could just go around the horn, and I think we all know each other pretty well, but if you want to just introduce yourself and maybe provide any update that you would like to provide. And I guess we'll start with our wonderful Public Health Director, Mike Hill.
That's about the first time I've been called wonderful this year, Commissioner. Thank you.
I don't know. On
Mike Hill.
budget and on time. You're pretty wonderful in all regards, I'd say.
Mike Hill, Executive Director of Douglas County Health Department. I've got no homeless-related updates at this time.
Okay, thanks, Mike.
Laura Hefta, Parker Town Council. I don't have any updates, but again, I did some research as well on this issue, and I posted it on my website about honest employment and honest jobs. It's a website that matches workers with a record that need help. And so that is another resource for folks that need help. It's called Honest Jobs. And the other thing I wanted to educate a little bit about was the Colorado Chance to Compete Act. And that in 2021, this encouraged employers to consider applicants with qualifications for a job, matching the job and the person's background appropriately to give folks that are experiencing homelessness or have a felony record or a misdemeanor record to give them a second chance in life. And so again, that would be at, that's the Colorado Chance to Compete Act, and the other one is the www.honestjobs.com, because too often homelessness does coincide with folks that have a misdemeanor or a felony record.
Thank you, Councilwoman, or thanks to Parker.
Mike Wade, Executive Director of the Douglas County Community Foundation. We hold the fund. The Douglas has Heart Fund. So when someone comes to the website and makes a donation, that's where it goes. Happy to say that as of this morning, the fund is at $3,150. But what's kind of cool about that is about 2/3 of those donations were $50 or less. So serving the purpose of what the signs are there for, instead of handing a $5 bill out the door or a $20 bill out the window, going online and making that donation. It's interesting too, largest donation into that fund was just over $900, and that came as a check mailed to us. So we're reaching people in both ways, and they're using that in terms of making their philanthropic decisions. And just as an update, once that fund hits $10,000, it's distributed equally among the 4 homeless organizations that the county has designated. And DCCF does this without any fees or charges. We're happy to help manage this as part of the community.
Well, as our charitable arm of Douglas County, I know we ask Mike to do a lot. So thank you for always being there. We appreciate that.
Tiffany Marcito with the Heart Team. I completed my update earlier.
Yes, he did. Good job.
Darren Weekly, Douglas County Sheriff. We did have a change in personnel, so our current Heart deputy is transitioned to becoming a detective. So we are in the process of selecting a new Heart deputy. We want to ensure that we have the right personnel in that assignment. We want somebody who's going to be good for this type of work. And so more to come, and we should have a deputy selected within the next couple of weeks.
Great. Sheriff.
Kirk Wilson with Lone Tree PD. So we still see a ton of activity up on RTD's line, and we actually met with RTD this past week to try to discuss not dropping people off in the middle of the night, which has been going on for some time. So we're making some inroads in that. We've been working really closely with Greg. He's doing a great job with our team in Lone Tree. So it's really more of just the same stuff we've been dealing with. So.
Thank you, Chief. And maybe just a quick aside, the county met with the head of RTD, last week, the week before, and our local directors, Julian Bouquet and then Doug Tisdale. And I think it's an ongoing conversation around the impression of safety on light rail. I've got a 17-year-old daughter. She would not go down to a Bronco game on light rail right now because it feels unsafe. And that was an issue that the RTD leadership certainly recognized. I know part of the conversation is working with municipalities to identify resources potentially to have some optic sense of security. I know resources are very limited in that regard, but I know we're continuing to talk about that. The nice thing about this co-response model of having law enforcement paired with the navigator, again, if we're having great success there, I think part of a conversation we might have here is how we extend that time and maybe replicate that on public transportation.
Yeah, there are some complications with trying to partner with RTD due to federal funding and some other issues going along with, because they have done some extra duty type work. I know Aurora does that, a couple other municipalities, but there are some very severe restrictions on how that's done. But we're up there every day, essentially routinely. Unfortunately, what we're seeing is a lot of drug use, open drug use on the line, on the platforms. Just this past week, we probably made 4 or 5 different arrests of open drug use on the platform or in the elevators by the platform. And RTD has assisted on a couple of those. We had a drug overdose on the RTD line that stopped in Lone Tree and actually revived a person after several doses of Narcan, or what is it called? Whatever. Anyway, I think it's Narcan, but so we're seeing that's what we're seeing, and it is making a very unsafe environment, and that's what we're hearing from passengers when we talk to them about, they don't feel safe because, and it's really not safe. They're essentially smoking fentanyl in a closed compartment, and there are people there. In fact, that overdose is exactly how that happened. There was actually citizens on there who were like, "Whoa, I think they're smoking narcotics," and they're smelling it, but it's really dangerous, right? So. That's what we're seeing a lot of, and we're doing the best we can, but obviously that line runs up and down Denver, and it just ends up in Lone Tree, and we deal with that issue when they come off the train, but we're seeing a lot of activity up there.
That's a huge thanks to you, Chief. Lone Tree is the gateway. I always say it's the beautiful welcome sign to Douglas County, but you're taking on a lot, and I think it'd be great as a Douglas County Homeless Initiative to come alongside you and help with some of those additional resources. Our view here is, yes, we want to be compassionate for those who need services, but for those, who do not, who are service resistant, and maybe committing crimes, that's a whole other issue. It's still a crime to litter. It's still a crime to urinate, defecate, to harass, to vandalize. So we're not taking a blind eye to that, and I'm thankful you all aren't either. Councilwoman?
Marissa Harmon, City of Lone Tree. I don't have any specific updates, but what I did want to say is, as I've spoken with other members of our community about the phone number that we have to offer and just educating about what the sign means and how it is to keep them safe as well as traffic flowing, to not hand out your window, I think is been received really well. So just continuing to talk about it and make sure our residents know that there is a line for donation, avenue for donations, as well as a phone number, I think has been really impactful. So thank you so much.
Great. Thank you, Councilwoman.
Good morning, Amy Edwards with the Douglas County Attorney's Office. That's it.
Dan Marlowe with Help and Hope Center. Just wanted to say we are serving homeless folks every day, food and clothing and that sort of thing. But we're really also focused on folks who are who could be homeless very quickly if they had some sort of an emergency. I heard a news clip the other day that said 70% of Americans can't afford a $400 repair bill, which is kind of scary. And if you kind of just do the math in Douglas County, that comes out to about 90,000 residents. And so we're focused on really trying to prevent homelessness when folks are in an emergency, right? So 24,000 of those people walked through the door last year. So that's a big number, and I think it's only going to get worse in the near future. So we're happy to help, and if you need something, give us a call. We're there most of the time. I'm not, but somebody is.
We appreciate that. I just wanted to add that's one of the trusted nonprofits that the Community Foundation is working closely with.
Good morning, Erin White with Winter Shelter Network and also Manor Resource Center. And I'll give an update from both perspectives. I'll piggyback first off of what Dan mentioned from my Manor Resource Center hat. In January, we assisted Douglas County with the Pathways Eviction Prevention Program, and I think we processed 40 households in helping prevent their evictions. And so what we're seeing is the same thing that Dan is mentioning, households that are on the verge and would have been homeless without this one-time intervention. We're thankful that we're offering them more than that financial assistance, that we're offering them the opportunity to have a coach walk alongside them and create a plan so that this month, now we're in February, that they're hopefully not in the same boat. But 30 days is a really short period of time, and even less than that, depending on when that eviction notice happened. It's a really short period of time for them to create a plan to financially be secure, because they just don't have a savings that's going to be able to rescue them. And whether it's underemployment or medical conditions, there's all kinds of barriers that people in our community are facing. So while there is flourishing things happening in the economy, there's still challenges in our community. Excuse me. And then from a Winter Shelter Network update, the network is still operational, but we do not have any guests at this time. We've had a couple of applications come through for folks that did not qualify for the network, and we have a few qualifications, including residency for living in Douglas County, as well as we do some safety checks to make sure that the women don't have any open wants or warrants, or that they are able to safely come into the churches to be able to spend the night with us. And so we haven't had anybody who has qualified, although we do have one application pending for someone who I'm not sure that they're going to be able to qualify as a resident, but we do have that one application pending. So our numbers, just like they did last year, are trending even lower than they have in previous years. But the churches in the community that are part of the Winter Shelter Network have committed to coming together in the next month or so to look at what the needs are. They're going to follow the point in time information closely and see what was learned over the night last week and see what the needs are and talk about what potential responses they might be able to offer as we continue to work together with this group towards providing solutions for people in Douglas County experiencing homelessness. So those are my updates.
Aaron, thank you for that. And, you know, we were involved in that pretty active community conversation in Castle Rock. And I know that's an ongoing question is around sheltering and what that looks like. You know, as a representative of the citizens, what I've heard from those speaking to me is more faith-based partnerships. But that said, you know, the sheltering component remains a challenge and a concern. What is the total, and I was asked this, and I want to make sure we get this right. What is the total number of families that have been served through Winter Shelter Network in the last year? Do you have that number?
We served 5 households last year.
It was 5.
We have not served any this season.
Okay.
Yep.
Just want to make sure accurate information goes out. Thank you for that.
Sure.
I wanted to, and before we get to Mayor Gray, Kevin Rance from Castle Pines had to drop off, but just wanted to thank Castle Pines for being here too.
Well, I first want to thank everybody here for having me and having the town of Castle Rock. And I want to thank our police, our fire, our town of Castle Rock. Also, we have a third-party group that helps clean up our camps. We have over 10 camps already cleaned up in the last year or so. And that's just really helpful. I know it's great. And I want to make sure everyone knows, and I appreciate that, and the town appreciates that. But moreover, and more importantly, it's the collaboration of this that makes that happen. I think that sometimes we forget that we need to collaborate. And this is a great group. And people who want help will get help. And people who don't want help, I think we will take action where it's appropriate. And I think it's really important that everyone knows that people who reach out, everybody at this table can figure out how to get a hold of somebody who can help somebody who needs help. And people who don't want help, we're going to keep trying to help those people as well. But we need to take action when necessary. I appreciate it. Thanks for this group.
Thank you, Mayor Gray.
Wendy Holmes, Communications Director, Douglas County. I have nothing further to add, and I'm going to jump up so we can get ready for our press conference here, if you'll excuse me. Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy.
Good morning, everyone. Dan McKelkey. I'm the Director of Human Services for Douglas County. The one thing that I think it's important for everyone to know is over the last almost 3 years, people who are utilizing public benefits, specifically food assistance and Medicaid, have seen an increased what we call a max allotment in food assistance. The average is about $90 extra a person. So a family of 4, that's almost $400. All of that comes to an end at the end of this month. So pre-pandemic, what we call EBT, which is food assistance, will go back to what it was prior to the pandemic, starting March 1st. For families, especially the families who have never utilized public benefits before, this is going to be an astronomical change to their life with the increase in food, something that they haven't had to necessarily pay for over the last 3 years. All of that's going to abruptly stop. That's not a county thing. That's not a state thing. That's actually a federal thing. So in the omnibus bill that passed in Congress in January, they call it the unwinding of the public assistance part. For people who are utilizing Medicaid, which is also an income-based program, we haven't been able to take anybody off of Medicaid in 3 years. We will start taking people off in 2023. So we're about to see something for thousands of residents in Douglas County that we have tried to prepare them as best we can, but we do think our nonprofit partners here are going to see a pretty significant upswing in people accessing food through the food banks, and likely asking for rental assistance, as the bridge for food will not be able to be met, and they'll be paying more money for food and be able to pay less money for rent.
Well, thank you, Dan. And not to be too controversial, but I'm glad the benefits are ending. And I think in Douglas County, we are not interested in continuing pandemic and COVID benefits when the pandemic has been over for a very long time. As compassionate as we are, certainly ensuring that people have a pipeline to workforce and employment opportunities. There's a lot of jobs out there. This is an expensive place to live, and we get that, and we hope our nonprofits will continue to come alongside those that need a little extra help. Jen.
Jennifer Eby with Douglas County. I'm Assistant Director of Community Development. Just one other thing along the lines with signs. I know that Councilman Rance had to drop off, but he did indicate that he'd be working with staff to identify what additional locations we might be able to do within Castle Pines. So more to come along those lines. And do want to also mention, we do still have the Pathways Eviction Program that is in place. And I know that there is a lot of adjustments that are going to be happening, but that is still a resource that's available to help people if they are facing eviction or even in a homeless situation and need help with a security deposit. So another way to help people get to a stable situation.
Thanks, Jen. Dr. Rob?
We need a mic.
Good morning, everyone. Jamie Rife, I'm the Executive Director of the Metro Denver Homeless Initiative. Always a pleasure to be in Douglas County. I wanted to build a little bit off of what Lauren shared earlier around the coining that happened last week with Secretary McDonough. While it was a true honor to be the one that actually got the coin, I was going to bring it with me today, but I'm so scared to leave my house with it before it's framed. Because it was really a wonderful moment. But that moment was really about our collaborative effort across the region to address veteran homelessness. And so what we've seen is that our region has reduced veteran homelessness by 31% in 2 years, and the national average is 11%. And that's because we know veterans by name. We can any night pull data and know who they are. And that is a really exciting point and one we want to get to for everyone who's experiencing homelessness. And what I'll say is our region is becoming a national leader in this work, and that's very, very exciting. Large cities from across the country are reaching out, wanting to know what we're doing, and it is really around this coordination, collaboration, and real-time data. And it's just exciting to be part of this work. It's hard, what we all do, but being able to get up and know that we are making a difference is just, for me, it means a lot, and I'm very excited about the future of this work in our region.
Dr. Rife, you were always so bright and so positive and engaged with us, and we really appreciate the partnership as well. So with that, I would love to open it up to public comment. If we have any public comment in the room, if you want to just line up over by the podium over here, state your name and where you're from. You'll have about 2 minutes to share your comments.
Good morning, Benjamin Lane, Castle Pines Village. I'd like to share with you a meeting that happened a week or two ago about homelessness in Castle Rock. And a few important data points came out of that meeting. First of all, that in the county's most recent point in time check, there were 78 homeless people. And the one that they conducted just in the past couple weeks, that number is lower than 78. Also, a data point that was provided at this meeting is that 9 out of 10 homeless people do not want services. So I would ask you around this table, what is all these resources being put forward for when there are very few people in Douglas County who want these resources? Families in Douglas County do not want government malinvestments in resources that will create an environment that attracts and is conducive to homeless people. The streets talk, and when word gets out that if you come down to Douglas County, you're not going to find a lot of services, people will not be coming down to Douglas County. The sheriff said earlier today, if you see someone acting crazy in the median, call law enforcement. When word gets out that if you're coming down acting homeless and causing a problem in Douglas County, you're going to come face to face with law enforcement, people are not going to be coming down here because they do not want that interaction. Also, I appreciate the folks from the Veterans Affairs coming today because it reminds me that I should point out that the idea of an epidemic of veterans homelessness is a cherished superstition. This is something that was brought up and perpetuated during the Vietnam era when many people were coming back from Vietnam and it was unpopular. One of the slanders that was used against them is that they are that they're running around being homeless, not being responsible. The author B.G. Burkett writes about this extensively in his book, Stolen Valor. And if you think about it, it makes perfect sense. What are the skill sets that someone develops in the military? Teamwork, leading from the front, communications, showing up on time with the right attitude in the right uniform. These character traits are the antithesis of the character traits that exhibits in the homeless population. If there is a homeless veteran, the chance that he is homeless because of some aspect of his military service is infinitesimal. In fact, in almost all cases, the rare homeless veteran is homeless, and it's just a coincidence that he happened to be a veteran. As we can see, in the past year or so, there have been 0 to 5 homeless veterans in Douglas County. The idea of homeless veterans is also a straw man argument that is set up by proponents of investing in homeless services. In fact, just a few months ago, a city council member
Mr. Yang, if you want to
in
wrap
Castle
up your
Rock.
comments.
What'd you say?
You want to wrap up your comments?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, you didn't have to leave. I just wanted you to wrap up so everybody else had a chance. No, and thank you for your service, sir. We greatly appreciate that. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Jill Campbell, and I think we're missing a huge factor in homelessness. And I think the Hope of House is what you said. What was your name, sir, that works in the church that are feeding and clothing the people and supporting people that are preventing homelessness? What house was that? Help and Hope Center. So is this working? I hope so, because I have a voice. I have, for many, many years, worked in the field, personally on the streets, taking care of dying men. As they look in my eyes, alcoholics, a man who got hit by a van, just recently, 2 weeks ago, down on Stout Street, our very medical center for our homelessness, fed over 50 men and clothed with clothes. I have a medical unit in my car. I have clothes. I have food. I have resources. I have ropes. I helped homeless people that had to cover their things with a tarp and needed rope. I have those things in my car. Because why? Because we're more than people that just talk about people that are struggling. And I wrote a song, and two songs, one's on YouTube, but I'll tell you a small part of it. And as we look at programs like WIC and SNAP, and we're projecting, or we're supplicating those that are on the streets. Let's prevent those that will be on the streets. Let's forward think that you, me, and the people, if we look at Turkey alone, 12,000 deaths in just a minute with an earthquake. We look at San Francisco in the 1980s. That earthquake left 250, 250,000 people homeless in San Francisco. The load on our immigrants at Texas, those are homeless people, people of God, children of God. Now, let's put aside the fact that we urinate on the street. I've done it. I've had surgeries and I've had to do it. We closed restrooms. We shut off life for the American people. How sad. How sad that we sit with our, I don't know if this is a nice clothes or not. I would give it to, I've given clothes off my back, but let me wrap it up. When we look, and I'm not angry, I see the hope in most of these people. I helped a man with 10,000. I helped another with 6,000, a woman with a 10-year-old. 6,000 I've helped personally with my own money, because we are individuals and we have individual needs that connect us to humanity. Her bowl is empty, her cup runs dry. She looks to heaven and questions why. As she cries, my child is cold and hungry.
Thank you, ma'am, and thank you for your compassion. Yes. Okay.
Good morning. I have a couple of questions. The first one is for you, Commissioner Layden. At the meeting last Thursday night, somebody had mentioned something about the state coming in, perhaps putting something here in Castle Rock. And I noticed you nodded your head.
That's not accurate.
Okay, well, you kind of nodded your head like maybe there was something going on there.
It's a $55 million facility that the state legislature has identified for Aurora.
Uh-huh. So I know the governor has an initiative for this year where he wants to put in multifamily housing and workforce housing. And so there's been no identification of a spot here in Castle Rock for that.
For workforce housing, Mayor?
Okay, so like I said, there was a lot of things that started coming up at the end of that meeting, and so maybe you were nodding your head at something else. And then you had brought up something that 2 of the commissioners voted for, you voted against, and I missed what that was. Do you recall what maybe that was?
I do, and I can't speak specifically to quasi-judicial land use decisions other than to say that there was a workforce housing application before us. I actually believe we're past the 28 days? I think we are. So what I can say was we did get an application for workforce housing in an area that, on the record, I was very clear I didn't believe it fit in that particular community. I like workforce housing because veterans, teachers, first responders, they need to be able to live where they work, and it's a traffic solution. We don't want people to have to commute an hour just to get here.
Right.
But this particular location, I didn't feel like it fit with the comprehensive master plan, so I voted against it. The other 2 voted for it.
So my 2 cents worth on that is I was a hiring manager at Sky Ridge and also at Castle Rock Adventist. And a lot of my gals made about $20 an hour. And so most of my gals came either from Colorado Springs or Aurora. And it was hard to get down here. If you ever have the opportunity to consider at the end of the light rail, it's close to Castle Rock. It'd be a short commute, much better than Aurora, much better than Colorado Springs. But also help people if they wanted to go north and they wanted to work in Denver. To me, just seems like such a great location. My last question was, I'm a little unclear on what happens if you come across somebody and they refuse service. Say you have a place to take them, put them, you have some options for them, and they just flat out don't want to refuse service. What happens then? Do we just walk away and leave them there?
Well, I'll defer to law enforcement and the sheriff to answer that, but it is still a crime to litter, vandalize, urinate in public, impede traffic. And so my sense is that, that will not be tolerated in Douglas County. But, again, I think, Sheriff, I don't know if you want to speak to somebody that is, you're called out, they refuse services. What does that look like for you guys?
It depends on the totality of the circumstances and what the behavior is that they're doing. So it's not against the law to be homeless, but if they're breaking the law, we're going to take enforcement action of that. If they're trespassing, if they're committing some other sort of crime, then we'll address that issue if they don't want to be connected with services. But again, if they're not breaking the law and they haven't done anything wrong, there's not a lot that we can do.
Okay. And I'm just trying to clear it because I remember kind of at the beginning of this journey, because I've been on this journey with y'all for
You have.
pretty much from the
Thank you
beginning.
for being here.
And I remember that a lot of it was, code enforcement. We have to have some place for them to go to enforce a code.
Right.
But if the reality is they don't want to go anywhere and they don't want help, which it seems like 9 out of 10 people don't, then, I'm with the first gentleman that spoke, then what's the point of building these big things, which, it seems like we've gotten away from. But I'm just trying to reconcile it all, in my mind on what are we trying to achieve.
Yep.
So.
Well, and thank you for that. I appreciate that. I think some of the good news we're about to share at 10:30 today recognizes the success of the HEART team. And when they know people in crisis by name, what that happens from a deterrence standpoint and a services standpoint.
And I would like to recognize the good work that has been done with the HEART team. Like I said, I've been on this journey quite a while with you all, and so I've seen its progress. And it is encouraging to hear the HEART team can reach those people that do deserve help. You know where I volunteer and that I'm an advocate for that. And so I like to see people that really need help. There are a lot of people in my family that have fallen on hard times. So it's nice to see the HEART working with the VA, working with the Help and Hope Center and all these different organizations, the women fleeing from domestic violence that have been able to get help. I mean, I do enjoy those stories. So, congratulations on the good work that has come out of this committee.
Well, Lori, thank you you're one of our amazing citizens that has been with us through the entire journey and actively involved. So thank you for your participation. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
Any other citizen comment today? Oh, and ma'am, before you get a second round, let me make sure. Ma'am, I am going to ask you to sit down, ma'am.
It's homelessness from post-pandemic homelessness.
Okay.
Families that have lost everything through government restrictions. So let's not restrict each other and
Thanks, ma'am.
give a little more freedom in if you want to stay on the streets and there's
We're going to
lows
try
that
to
you
give
can,
other
yes.
people an opportunity to speak. I appreciate that. You are not the only person here. Okay. Any other citizens in the room that would like to speak? Do we have anybody else online? Anybody online that would like to share with us? Okay.
Commissioner, I have one online hand
Let me do
raised.
one comment, and ma'am, if you want to come to the mic so we can hear you, we'll be happy to answer your question. Yes, sir.
He's going to wait until after. Did you want to?
Okay. Did you want to ask a question, ma'am? Oh, it's not, right. I think and Wendy's not here, so I'll try to share as much as we can in terms of what we've discussed in this body. What we're trying to do is educate and inform citizens that we understand they're compassionate. When they see somebody at an intersection, it feels like the right thing to do to roll down your window. It is not. We're really asking people to give to a trusted resource, our community foundation. It's not safe for you or the person receiving those funds to impede traffic or to call people into an intersection to give money. So, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know that we have somebody from our business community here, but we have talked a lot about trespass letters. So if it's a Home Depot or a King Soopers or, any local business, that's private property. And so they can avail themselves of those signs as well. And ultimately, people can be trespassed. So in partnership with law enforcement, individuals that are, setting up a tent in front of a Home Depot, that management could actually connect with the HART team and have that resolved.
Yes, absolutely. As long as the person has been informed that they're trespassing, whether that be, frankly, trespassing on public property potentially or private property, as long as they have noticed that they are trespassing, our deputies would respond, inform them they're trespassing, give them the opportunity to leave. If they don't, they could be criminally charged.
Great. Thank you, Sheriff. Yes, ma'am. One online comment. Okay, we've got one online comment. Yes.
Mr. Secord, you are unmuted.
Hello, sir.
Go ahead, William.
Okay. Might have lost William going once. Okay, let me see. Is there any other online comment? Okay, any other comment in the room? Okay, with that, everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. If you do have other questions, we'll be around here for a little bit. Press conference at 10:30 for those that would like to stick around and share some positive news. Wendy, anything else on that? Okay, thank you very much. Well, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining us here today for our update about our preliminary point-in-time findings and to honor the work of our HART navigators and law enforcement officers who we believe have contributed to this outcome. It's almost Valentine's Day, and I think there's a lot to say about love in this community and the compassion that is working so well to serve our citizens. Launched in October of 2022, HART, which stands for the Homeless Engagement Assistance Resource Team, began working to provide resources to those in our community experiencing homelessness. And I'd be remiss if I didn't begin by introducing some of our incredible partners that are here with me today. I'd like to begin with Sheriff Darren Weekly. We have Tiffany Marcito and Greg from our HART team. We have the amazing Laura Hefta, who is a veteran from Parker, and Mayor Gray from Castle Rock. Very thankful to have participation from all of our municipalities, local law enforcement, nonprofits, staff, and to have this process in Douglas County be very expert informed. So thank you for that. Already in Douglas County, we're seeing the positive impact of their daily compassion with HART and their deep knowledge. So I'll provide some context and background in a bit, but I don't want to bury the lead, as those in the news business might say. So according to our raw and preliminary point-in-time data from January 30th, the number of people who are unsheltered in Douglas County is down 46% over 2022. So last year, what we heard is that our point in time was at 78, with 50 specifically being unsheltered. I'm thankful to be here before you today to share that because of the work of HART, our point in time is currently at 27 people unsheltered, which is a remarkable achievement by HART in Douglas County. I want to reiterate that the count data is preliminary and will be deduplicated and validated by the Metro Denver Homeless Initiative. But what we know undoubtedly today is that there are fewer people living on the streets in Douglas County than there were in 2022. Our counts from January 30th again indicate there were 57 people experiencing homelessness in Douglas County. Of those, 27 were unsheltered, 30 were living in temporary housing. This means that there was a 27% reduction in homelessness overall, and specifically a 46% reduction in those living without any kind of shelter in Douglas County compared to 2022. You know, every year Douglas County participates with 6 other counties and the city of Aurora to provide point-in-time data to the Metro Denver Homeless Initiative. The data is a one-day count of the number of people in each community experiencing homelessness. This year, that count took place on January 30th. Our data will be validated with that of 6 other counties in the city of Aurora later this year. The Metro Denver Homeless Initiative will release the final findings. So why are we seeing this 46% reduction? We really attribute all of this success today to our HART team and law enforcement officers. The Homeless Engagement Assistance Resource Team grew out of a partnership that we call the Douglas County Homeless Initiative. The Douglas County Homeless Initiative embodies the practical application of our compassionate approach to serving the unhoused in Douglas County. And we try to lead with the 4 C's, which are compassion, then code enforcement, community services, and then communications. We're very, very thankful for our Handouts Don't Help campaign, which is helping to educate and inform citizens that yes, give compassionately, but not in intersections, not in a place that is going to incentivize more dangerous situations for you and people asking for resources. Give to a trusted community foundation, our Douglas County Community Foundation. Now, the HART team pairs a navigator with law enforcement specifically to help those who are experiencing homelessness. We've seen a lot of success in this field with co-response in the mental health initiative. We've seen savings and diversions from emergency rooms and in our jails. Very similar statistics with our HART team. Having a navigator paired with law enforcement seems to be the secret sauce that is leading to so much success. These teams do not sit around and wait for a call. They are out in our community every day, proactively building relationships and helping those who want services to find what they need. Our HART team knows individuals in crisis by name and is working hard to address these issues. So with that, I'm pleased and honored to introduce our new sheriff, Sheriff Darren Weekly. Sheriff?
Thank you. I just want to reiterate this program, and it was modeled after the community response teams where we pair a deputy sheriff with a mental health clinician. This HART team is also modeled similarly where we pair a deputy sheriff with a homeless navigator. This program has proven to be extremely successful. We're very proactive, but we want to ensure that our community is safe. So we're encouraging people, if they see something that's unsafe, whether that be a homeless person panhandling in the street or in a median, or just see something that's unsafe in their community, we're encouraging them to call their local law enforcement, whether that be the sheriff's office, and then we'll get a deputy to respond, and if possible, we'll get a member of the HART team to respond. So we have that co-responder model. So we want to ensure that our community is safe. Again, I want to reiterate that we're being proactive, and we don't want homelessness to get a foothold in our community. We want to connect them with services, and we want to ensure that everyone is safe. So with that, I will introduce Tiffany Marcito, and she is our Community Services Supervisor.
Thank you, Sheriff. Tiffany Marcito with the Homeless Engagement Assistance and Resource Team in Douglas County, also known as HART. Like Commissioner Layden said, we are comprised of 3 navigators who are partnered with law enforcement, and we're taking a proactive approach by going out into the community to try to find those who are experiencing homelessness and offer them resources. Those individuals who are wanting to be connected to resources, we're trying to build trust and rapport with them so they can get to an agency of their choosing. During the day, when we are on a call and find an individual who is experiencing homelessness, The law enforcement officer and the navigator go up to the individual, assess their needs, vulnerabilities, and ask what barriers they have faced to ultimately prohibit them from achieving their desired outcomes. Those outcomes could be anything from identification to housing to benefit assistance, or to simply help them navigate to a shelter of their choosing. The HEART team provides short-term case management to the individual, and we pass their case along to the experienced case manager at the resource of their choosing. The HEART team is also, we value the compassionate and accountability approach that the commissioners and leaders have designed this program to do, and we make sure that the individual is taking those necessary steps forward toward change. I do have a quick success story that I wanted to share with you all. In October of 2022, one of the navigators received a referral of a 73-year-old woman who had been living out of her vehicle for the past year. The navigator quickly assessed the needs of the woman and reached out to faith-based and nonprofit partners, was able to secure a hotel room for her for 2 weeks, while a more stable unit was secured for the woman. The navigator reached out to local and regional resources and found a shelter specifically for elderly women. An application was submitted from the woman, and she was able to get inside the shelter. And at this time, she has moved into a transitional housing unit, which she now pays monthly for rent. That's all I have for the HEART team.
Thank you so much, Tiffany. Incredible work with everything that you're doing. You know, I want to make sure and thank all of the partners who helped with the point-in-time count, the Douglas County Sheriff's Office, who have been absolutely incredible, our municipal law enforcement partners in Castle Rock, Lone Tree, and Parker, All Health, Catholic Charities, the Help and Hope Center, the Parker Task Force, Mana Resource Center, the Douglas County School District, the Crisis Center, and many other members of the Community of Care Network. You know, I can't imagine a better Valentine to the people of Douglas County than our compassionate approach and a reduction in the amount of people experiencing homelessness. And I'd be really remiss not to really applaud our municipal partners. Nothing we do is possible without partnership with our cities and towns, and we work really well together in the county. So I would love to give an opportunity for Mayor Gray and Councilwoman Hefta to share any comments from your perspective, if you'd like. Mayor Gray?
Thanks, Commissioner. Thanks, everybody. I think that we talked about it earlier. The biggest thing we have is collaboration. All of our municipalities and our partners and the county together have made this happen the way it has happened. Thank you, Darren. So I just want to say, really, it's a collaboration, you know, between our municipalities and our county and all of our partnerships. I think that we're moving forward in the right direction for people who want and need help. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Gray. Councilwoman Hefta?
It's a collaboration between our state, our federal partners, the VA, which helps many homeless veterans get into stable housing and provides per diem and resources to do so. The Denver Metro Homeless Initiative can help many veterans with this matter. And our local towns and our wonderful nonprofits, both faith-based and non-faith-based, who provide shelter, clothing, food, rental assistance, utility assistance. There is a lot of help out there for folks who are experiencing homelessness or may experience homelessness. And we all work together in Douglas County to help those folks in need. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Hefta. We also heard today really significant news that as a result of the work to reduce veteran homelessness, Douglas County is the most improved county in the state. So with that, thank you very much, everybody, for joining us today. We couldn't have done this without all of our amazing partners, municipalities, Sheriff's Office, and the HEART team. Congratulations. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
How can you know for sure that the decrease in point-in-time count correlates to helping transition people out of homelessness, and it's not necessarily them just moving to another place where they might have more services and more shelter?
You know, all the above. I mean, certainly from our perspective, our goal in signing the commitment to Built for Zero with the region, our goal is to reduce homelessness to functional zero. So we're pleased however that is shaped out, whether it's identifying services for individuals or for our intersections and areas in public spaces to be cleared of dangerous situations. Those are all part of that component. Let me ask Tiffany if she has any additional responses to that.
At this time, I know the point-in-time study last year and this year, weather is always a factor. I am proud to say that 30 were sheltered in Douglas County this year, and that was increased from last year. So I think that by utilizing our community resources, both faith-based and non-faith-based community partners, that has contributed to our overall decrease.
Thank you. Other questions? Yeah.
Wasn't prepared for that, but hi. This is Ellis Arnold with Colorado Community Media and the Douglas County News Press. Thanks for taking our questions. Kind of a follow-up on that. You know, as you guys kind of alluded to, Douglas County's point-in-time homeless count is typically in the double digits, lower than other counties in the area. You know, is there any chance that people on the night of this year's count were pushed out to Denver or Aurora, given the lack of emergency shelter space, particularly for men in Douglas County?
So we're really proud of our winter shelter, which does house women and children in crisis through our faith-based partnerships. That said, we're working very well as a region. We're not sending anyone to other municipalities. We do have navigation teams and vehicles, so if people have family in other areas, then transportation will be provided on a voluntary basis. I don't know, Tiffany, did you have anything else on that? Yeah.
I kind of those 30 people that were sheltered, some of them were men in a shelter. They had an area to be sheltered.
The 30 that were sheltered were either in domestic violence shelters within Douglas County on hotel vouchers or at a local regional place around the area. Yes.
And I had another follow-up. You guys had considered building pallet shelters, but that was met with a lot of unhappy community members, and so kind of the plan was put on hold. Is there any other consideration of more shelter in Douglas County?
You know, we've heard a little bit more about opportunities to work well as a region, and we know that the state is working on a $55 million facility that would be located in Aurora. We have had some active conversations with council members and the mayor of Aurora around what that might look like. That would qualify as a shelter that is within reasonable distance for those in crisis here to be located to. But we continue to have ongoing productive conversations around that.
Yeah, kind of a related question. We've heard concerns about quote unquote pod shelters potentially being built at I believe it's the Rock Church in Castle Rock. Concerns about zoning surrounding that. Like if, you know, hypothetically, if the Rock Church had the funding today, could it build pod shelters under its current zoning? Could it build pallet shelters under its current zoning? Or would a zoning change be needed?
You know, so we're the county, but we do have the benefit of having Castle Rock here. I don't know, Mayor Gray, if you'd like to address that.
Sure.
Okay.
Thanks again, Darren. Yeah, the Rock Church has expressed interest in doing a low-income housing in Castle Rock. Unfortunately or fortunately, they're not zoned currently for that. And right now, our citizens have kind of spoke loudly about opposing that in that area. Also, police and fire don't like the entrance or egress from there. And as well as that, I think the town council and the staff right now is recommended against it.
Sorry about that. Yeah. Any other questions?
Yeah, I have one more question. We hear this so often that it can be tough when people deny help. What's the response from Heart when people say, no, I'm good here, I want to stay here if I'm out camping outside?
Well, if they're not violating the law, we continue to engage the next time we encounter the individual. But if they're violating the law, then we leave it up to the sheriff's office to address the law violation.
And violating the law being?
There's a wide range. They could be trespassing. If they're littering, it's a wide range. So we're not trying to criminalize homelessness, certainly. We're not trying to solve it by putting people in jail. But we're also not going to look the other way if the laws are being broken.
I would just add, we received an interesting statistic from the HEART team at our last Homeless Initiative meeting that about 9 out of 10 of the individuals that are encountered do have criminal backgrounds or warrants out for their arrest. So part of our response is we want to be compassionate and direct those that are not service resistant to services. But for those that are committing crimes, in Douglas County, vandalism, littering, urinating in front of a building, open drug use, those are all still crimes. And so those will be addressed here.
And do you have the numbers on how many veterans you've helped from the previous year? I know you said that you helped some veterans, but do you have the actual numbers?
We do. I believe that there's been a fairly significant reduction down to 4. So that's where we're at now. I know the region has seen a 31% reduction in overall veteran homelessness. And for Douglas County, that distinction was the reason that we were considered to be the most improved county. Yes.
We know that the point in time count doesn't show everything about homelessness. What else is Douglas County using to get the entire picture of homelessness in the county?
Well, it's a very robust and active count with all of our nonprofit partners, with staff, with those on the HEART team. So technically, there's a lot more engagement this year than there has been in years past. And actually, the weather this year for the point in time was actually very consistent with the weather last year. So statistically, we feel pretty confident in terms of the results.
One last question here. This is the first year of the point in time count that had the benefit of having the HEART team helping out with it. Were the logistics different given that the HEART team was helping this year? And, is that expected to make the count more accurate compared to years past?
Yeah, count integrity was a top priority. And, just as one commissioner, my expectation is that the count would have been higher with so much more engagement from, again, dedicated staff, the HEART team, law enforcement, and our nonprofits. So we're very thankful to see that the number is actually significantly lower.
Other counties participate in the homeless management information system. Do you guys contribute to that too?
We do, Tiffany?
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, great. Well, again, thank you everybody for joining us today. We really appreciate it. Thank you.